We are live. And my plan absolutely did not work. So what had happened was the last few weeks, the Facebook Live connection wouldn't work for whatever reason.
Okay.
So I was going to be clever and start the stream, figure I would have to add Facebook again manually, and then play the intro. But since we didn't get to that point, Facebook works when I expected not to. God damn it. I'm just play the intro now.
Raymond, that's you. No, this ain't Raymond.
What's up, guys? You're watching RPadTV. My name is Raymond. I'm your host on Fantasy Island. With me today is the excellent Paul Semel. And today we're going to do what nerds do. We're going to spend 30 minutes talking about a 2-minute trailer. Fantastic Four First Steps. I mean, I don't know. I am so guilty of this. When like a new trailer comes out, I watch it like 20 times and overanalyze it and look for every stupid little thing. See a lot of things that aren't even there. So we're going to do a bunch of that. Hopefully get some of your reactions. Love to hear what you think of the Fantastic Four First Steps trailer. And yes, Carlos, this is a glitch in the Matrix. And it is also me trying to be too clever and outsmart StreamYard and Facebook when the reality is they outsmarted me. So, yeah, Paul and I think we've seen most of the Fantastic Four movies together in LA, except the first one. I don't think I was in LA yet when that one came out. But I've
never seen the Roger Corman one.
Yes, but that doesn't count. That's it's a make-believe one. But Fan Four Stick, I definitely saw with you at a press screening in LA, and
yeah.
And I read my old review of that. I was not kind to Michael B. Jordan. I'm like, wow, that's pretty mean. I mean, it is a garbage movie, and he was no good at it. But
yeah,
man. But yeah, before we get into Fantastic Four First Steps, let's take a look at what is going on the excellent paulsemel.com. What is new on the website, my man?
Lots of good stuff this week. Earlier this week, I put up an interview with a writer named Makana Yamamoto, who has a novel out called Hamajang Luck, and I'm probably mispronouncing that.
That sounds right.
Here's the interesting thing. So this woman, she goes to jail because her friend screwed her over. 8 years later, she gets out, and who's waiting for her to offer her a new job, criminal job, but the same friend.
Huh.
The thing is, it takes place in 150 years from now and on a space station, which is why the writer basically says it's a noir sci-fi crime story / cyberpunk lesbian space heist novel.
I refuse to believe one thing can be that many things.
Well, if you can have a dessert topping that's also a floor waxer, you can do anything as far as I'm concerned. So that book came out this week. The interview went up a couple days ago. And then tomorrow I have a preview of an upcoming puzzle game, which is really kind of weird and interesting, called Blueprints. And the idea of this is, okay, so this guy leaves his mansion to his grandnephew. But the condition is the kid has to find a hidden room in the mansion that no one's ever seen. And so he has to go to the mansion to find it. But there's something weird about the house. It's in a state of quantum flux, apparently, because every time you open a door, it isn't the same. And in fact, as you can see from the screenshot, the kid has to choose what room is going to be there. Is it going to be a hallway? Is it going to be the kitchen? What have you? And so you've got to, while you're solving all these other puzzles and everything, you've got to also navigate this house. And if the kid messes up, which is what I ended up doing, and ends up sort of sort of cornering yourself, you basically have to leave And when you leave, you go home because you can't spend the night for whatever reason. And every night the house resets.
Interesting.
So whatever you did, like, got all screwed up. So it's very influenced by point and click adventure games and board games, and also this puzzle book apparently. And it's rather interesting. And you can read my preview of that, which is going to go up tomorrow morning.
And Carlos has a question for you. Is this based on the Winchester house?
If it is, they didn't tell me that. They told me that it was largely based on this puzzle book from 1985 called Maze, which was sort of like a choose your own adventure kind of thing, but like with navigating a house, and there was like a whole weirdness to it. And apparently, like, they would give people, if people solved the puzzle, I don't think they did, but if anyone had ever solved the puzzle, they would have won $100,000. So,
wow,
yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, it's all very. There's also like other mechanics where like the kid can only take so many steps, and like, but then if you eat a banana, you get 3 more steps. It's, you know, it's very.
What?
Yeah, there's like basically like you at any given day, the kid can only take 50 steps, but you only take a step when you enter a room. Like once you're in a room, you can move as well you want, but like to go into a room, you lose a step, but you gain steps back if you find like an apple. Like if you find an apple, you get 2 more steps.
Gotcha.
So
yeah. Steps
are
basically the number of moves you have at a time.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's because like I said, it is very rooted in board games and there's some mechanics of that, because like the whole house is like one floor, but it's on a grid, and yeah, there's a lot more to it, but you guys can read all about that tomorrow. So
very cool. So Fantastic Four: First Steps. This was in your top 3 of most anticipated movies of 2025. It was number 1. It was just outside of my top 3, but we are both excited for Fantastic Four because it is the first time Marvel, or Kevin Feige's Marvel, has access to these characters. This could change a lot of things for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But let's start with a general question, and guys, please answer along in the comments sections there. Paul, what was your favorite aspect of the First Steps trailer?
For me, it was kind of the whole vibe, like the very like 60s vibe that they went with, like with the architecture and everything, but it wasn't like a regular 60s vibe. It was kind of what people writing science fiction in the 40s and 50s thought the 60s was going to look like. And you see that especially with the car.
The fantastic car.
Yes, exactly. Like that doesn't look like that's not a real car from like the 1960s, but it looks like what people thought a car was going to look like if they made a science fiction movie in 1935 or 1940 or what have you.
Right, and also going off of that, a lot of people thought that monorails would be all over the place for some reason.
Yes,
which would be cool. I kind of wish they were.
Yeah, but that's what I know that you're not as big a fan of these as I am, but it kind of reminded me in a weird way of the Fallout games.
Right.
Which, for anybody who's played the Fallout games, like they are very much in that aesthetic of like, what if 50 science fiction had been right, and that's the Art Deco look of those things had carried over basically into the 1970s, which is when the apocalypse happened. So that's why everything in the Fallout world looks like that. You know, like they have hover cars, but they look like, you know, they got fins on them and things like that.
Right.
So that was the thing. That was one of the big things that I really liked about the trailer. The other thing is I really like the sort of casual humor of it.
Okay.
Like again, it's one of the things that I think the Marvel movies have done really, really well is situational humor. Like with the exception here and there, like Deadpool, like usually they're not jokey. It's like they're funny things that people would actually say and do in real life. And one of the ones that caught my attention was when Ben's talking to Herbie and he tastes the sauce and he's like,
right,
it's good. I'm going to throw a little garlic in it.
Not because it's
not.
Yeah.
And it was something very funny about this movement. Like, you know, that just, it cracked me up. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm glad they're going for that same kind of funny vibe that that you get with like the Spider-Man movies and you got with the Iron Man movies. And because I think for the Fantastic Four, they are a little more on the lighthearted side than say
Yeah, 'cause
Daredevil.
well, come on.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, but you know what I mean? Like
Fantastic Four is a family comic. It's about a family, whereas Daredevil
Right.
is about beating the shit out of people. So.
Right. But like, it's not like they're not going for like a Captain America Winter Soldier vibe.
Right.
You know what I mean? You could do. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the failures of that last Fantastic Four movie with Mr. Jordan.
So
Michael B. Jordan.
Here's a great comment. It was the first time I saw Herbie since I was like 11. Yes, and we're gonna have a segment dedicated to Herbie just in a few. Zach Morris adds, I love the 60s film style. Yes, to all of this with the 4:3 format and film edges showing the flashback of what, and then pulling back to the full frame, what I think is present day. Yes. So my favorite aspect encapsulates many of these things that both of them said is I love the art direction. You were talking about the retro futuristic aspect of it. And you mentioned the fantastic car. I love the kitchen. I mean, it's so good. It's quaint and retro and futuristic all at the same time. I like the muted color palette. I have a screen of what Zach Morris was talking about specifically. Where'd I put it? Yeah. So here, when they're talking about, and this is all guessing, when they're talking about before they got their powers, they're showing them like here, this is presumably before they went to space the first time. It goes to a 4:3 aspect ratio. So that I'm kind of thinking like, this is like the past footage, and you see like the edges of it. It looks like burnt celluloid film. Right. So I mean, it's just so clever. And even things like this illustration that they put, I should have made a full screen for this. I messed up the graphic. So yeah, if you look at the art direction in here, there's Herbie. I love his eyes. They're like reel-to-reel tapes. I like that Ben, you can't really see it, but it's actually the magazine he's reading is actually based on this issue of Life magazine from December 1963. I want to say December 16th, 1963, with LBJ on the cover there. So, I mean, touches like that, the whole vibe of it, I just really, really dig what they've done so far. And I can't wait to see more. Of course, Fantastic Four is about 4 members of a family. Let us go down one by one and see how they were portrayed to you. What did you make of Mr. Fantastic, Paul?
He was, to my mind, he was a little different than what we usually see. We usually see like
he wasn't white.
He wasn't white. He wasn't like kind of, proper and stand up straight and kind of like almost like Sheldon, but without like, the ADHD.
Right.
He kind of had like a 60s swagger about him too, which was a little interesting. I don't have any issue with any of that stuff, but it was interesting that they went that route with, because they could have very easily gotten, a straight white, very white kind of actor to play him, if Mitt Romney wasn't available, but, so I thought that was interesting and cool. I would have liked to seen him do a little bit of the stretching, but I kind of get that they were probably like, we need to make sure that's really good before we show it.
And that was there was no stretch. He didn't do anything with his powers.
No, right? He didn't stretch at all. And he's actually the only one in the whole thing that doesn't show off his powers.
You're right.
But then again, like if you think about, well, what were some of the things that went wrong with those early Fantastic Four movies? And one of the things that immediately comes to mind was the ropey CGI when he sticks his hand, then it goes under the door and reaches up. So they clearly want to avoid that.
Right.
They don't want people to be like, they don't want a repeat of Sonic the Hedgehog, basically. Like, I think every studio looked at that as like, we need to avoid that as whenever possible.
Hold on to that for 1 second. I just want to pop up Nate's comment here. Pedro Pascal seems to be everywhere I like now. Yes, he is having quite a career ever since Oberyn in Game of Thrones. He's just been,
Yeah.
which is funny. He was very close to quitting acting at one point, but apparently his residuals from Buffy the Vampire Slayer kept him alive. And also, what's her face? That actor that he's really close with. Oh, she's in Ocean's 8, and now I have to find that.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ariana Greenblatt, who's also everywhere I like.
No, they were not friends when they were young because she was not alive yet.
Well, I didn't know that's where you were going with it. I just thought, like, you think about someone who does like a lot of cool stuff, and
oh my God, she's even like not even high up in the credits of Ocean 8, even though she was one of the main characters.
who? I don't know who you're talking about.
That is so weird. Did somebody pop it up in the comments yet?
No, I'm not sure who you're referring to. So, I mean, I was thinking like, who's in that movie? Rihanna, Sandra Bullock, Kate Blanchett.
Yeah, Sarah Paulson. That's who.
Oh,
he was
Sarah
really close
Paulson.
to.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes. Johan says everything, everywhere, all at once was his life story. I really like him in Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent too. Yes, and isn't Last of Us coming out the next season? Isn't that
April?
April,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm such a fan of the actor that I can't wait to see. They didn't really show a lot of him. I think he had the least characterization in the 2-minute trailer, maybe by design. Right. Yes, Carlos with the Sarah Paulson mention. But I think he looked cool. I kind of wished they showed him do a little something, but I do think of Reed as like the professor of Marvel Comics. So seeing him teach, I like that little U-shaped thing. People are speculating that is him figuring out how interdimensional wormholes work.
Right.
And I like that in one of the clips that was shown at Comic-Con last year, he essentially hosted a TV show that was like a smarter version of Mr. Wizard's World. So he has a cool vibe going on. And I kind of want to see, I hope they play into his guilt more, because the whole reason that the Fantastic Four are all public superheroes without masks is because Reed made the decision, because Ben felt so alone and isolated. He wanted to have all of them be out and have public identities, so Ben would feel like they're in this together. So I hope they play on his guilt more, because his guilt in comics leads to a lot of bad decisions. Yes, and as Nate says, it's all fun and games until he whips out the ultimate nullifier, or in Civil War where he decides to clone Thor as if that were a good idea. That would come back to bite Tony and him in the ass later.
Yeah.
Now, they did show more of Susan Richards, the Invisible Woman. I'm excited for this character. I love the way that they showed off her powers in this. They have like the rainbow effect, because she's not really turning invisible as in she literally disappears. She is refracting light, so it looks like she's not there. And I love that they did that with her powers, where in the other movies, yes, it's older technology and stuff, but they just had her disappear and make blank force fields, and people were all of a sudden punched by invisible things and stuff like that.
Well, I remember in the first one with Jessica Alba, there was some explanation of light being bent, because Reed was looking at her through a thing and like kind of went like, looked side to side, and she was there, and then looking through this like gigantic sort of glass thing, like you could see her. So like they have like done that, but they've never really like leaned into it the way they did. I mean, like you were saying in this trailer. Right.
Nate says, I like when John Cena did it better. I don't remember when he was invisible. I'm sure I've seen it though. I can't remember it for some reason.
I like when Drax was invisible in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Dude, you're eating a Zard nut. So Vanessa Kirby is because you can't see him. Okay, I was slow there. Uh, Vanessa Kirby, who I think the first time I saw her was in that Fast and Furious spinoff, where
Yeah, same with me.
I'm supposed to believe she's Jason Statham's brother. I'm like, well, I see where all the good-looking genes went. But it's interesting when I was watching their press interviews at Comic-Con last year. It seemed like she was younger, significantly younger than Pedro Pascal. I don't know if that's actually the case, but the way they did her costumes and makeup, they seem closer in age, which also is a nod to the great art direction in it. Now let's talk about fan theories. I spend a lot of time on Reddit, and a lot of people are speculating that Susan Richards is actually pregnant in this movie. They keep going to this one screen here where she's kind of walking awkwardly as if she's favoring, her weight is imbalanced. So maybe they CGI'd out her pregnant tummy there. There's another screen later in the trailer, which is maybe not as good because she doesn't have the movement, or they think that she might be pregnant. So is first, do you think she's pregnant, Paul, and everyone watching? And maybe is the titular first steps talking about the first steps of Franklin Richards, who is an Omega level mutant and an obscenely powerful character in the Marvel comics? What say you, Paul?
It's weird because I'm not really sure what the point of avoiding that in a trailer would be. Because but it's not out of character for Marvel because they've done that before. I mean, if you remember in the trailer for the third Spider-Man movie, I forget who it was, but they edited somebody out of a scene in which you saw a bunch of people. But they did that because they hadn't revealed that character was in it before.
Right.
So I can kind of see it going either way, because it could just as easily be like, well, it was a weird camera angle or something, or I don't know. I mean, also the fact that they haven't come out and said no, we're not getting her pregnant yet. Don't worry.
Some people have even speculated that the Future Foundation, which is part of this movie, but also goes back to Jonathan Hickman's somewhat modern comics. I think those was it the late 2000s or early aughts?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Maybe 10, 15 years ago.
So they had the Future Foundation in that, where it was part school, part rotating superhero team, and part Reed compensating for Johnny's guilt over Johnny's death. And spoilers, he didn't really die in that.
What a shock. Somebody didn't die in the comic books.
But one of the funny things about this scene is Reed says, "We have family dinner every Sunday at 7, no matter what." And I'm like, well, you just gave Dr. Doom a perfect time to attack Manhattan, jerk. Thought that was a bit funny. But we don't know. Is the guy behind him a journalist doing a profile on the family?
It did seem like that. It seemed like a kind of 60s TV show, we're gonna go to the home of the Fantastic Four.
Right.
But who knows? I mean, I don't know who that guy is. Doesn't look like anybody.
So Vanessa Kirby had a bulk of the narration in the trailer, and I love her lines in this. We will face this together as a family, and it really gave her a maternal feel, which adds to the whole "this is Marvel's first family" vibe. And I at first I wasn't sure about that character because when I saw her in that Fast and Furious movie, I didn't get a motherly feel at all from her. I'm like, wow, she's Jason Statham's inexplicably hot sister. So, and because she is a beautiful woman and she does action movies, but I wasn't getting, a motherly vibe. But in the trailer so far, so great. Zach Morris says, "I think that is feasible. I've heard rumors that Jonathan Majors may come back to finish his storyline as Kang and be part of the Franklin Richards storyline."
They've apparently debunked that one.
Okay.
Marvel has debunked that one. So
that would have surprised me that they brought him back. I can't imagine them approaching him with a 10-foot pole until all that is settled, if at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have the reservations about her that you did, because when I first started thinking about what they were going to do in this movie, like I thought they were going to do like either an origin story or like a not soon after the origin, so it would still be young, it would be more of an action thing, you know. And it seems like this movie is going to be set well after the origin, and
Right.
they've been established, and it's almost like they're not really, it's kind of like the Fantastic Four when they're like being much more of a family unit as opposed to like a superhero group,
Right.
you know, which is kind of what like later kind of happened with them. Like, you know, I mean, there's whole comic books where like they don't get into a fist fight with anybody, you know, right? So I think that's like the vibe they're going for, which goes back to her being pregnant, because that's when all that stuff started to happen.
Aha.
Mm-hmm.
Very clever, Paul.
I know.
Now, let us move on from Sue to her younger brother, Johnny Storm. Now, he was played in the first Fox movie by Chris Evans, who I thought he actually probably was the best one out of all of them at the time. I don't know. But he's Chris Evans. He's a talented actor. And we would learn how much more so later. But yeah, I mean, Johnny had some cool moments in this trailer. He did make cool use of his powers. He also has this scene where he's falling through the stratosphere, and he looks like he should use his powers about now. Or maybe he flew up to the stratosphere and ran out of oxygen to generate flames. That could happen too. What did you think of his characterization? He didn't do a lot, but you get a good idea of the character, I thought.
He didn't do a lot, and he seemed like a slightly more reserved version of the character. Like, we're used to him being kind of like the arrogant, sort of like cocky, you know, like this is so cool, like I can light it on fire, I'm gonna use this to get chicks, and like this and that. And he seemed almost like that wasn't going to be like what his character was doing. Like, he was like, there's like that scene where like she opens the door and he's sitting there in his spacesuit in his house. Like, there you go. And it was almost like, are they going to nerd him up a little bit? Like, that could be interesting. Or maybe that's just what we see in the trailer. I don't know. But the shots of him on fire and flying around looked really cool. So that was good.
So good. Yeah. But I thought the older movies looked good at the time too, I thought.
Yeah.
I mentioned that I spend way too much time on Reddit. One of the subs that I play around with was like, this scene would have been much better if he was like jerking off in the spacesuit. I'm like, no. I mean, first of all, it's a trailer for Marvel. He's not, they're not going to have Johnny Storm wanking in an astronaut suit. Zach Morris says, looks like they're making Johnny more of a goofball than the frat boy they've portrayed him as in the past. That scene with him in the suit. Yes, totally.
But the thing is, they showed so little of him in the trailer that I don't think you can judge. I don't think that necessarily means that's how they're going to go with it in the thing. You know, it could just be that one scene. Right.
I mean, slight tangent here, but one of my favorite aspects of Johnny Storm is his relationship with Spider-Man in the comics. You know, they're both like youngish superheroes, so they have that in common, and they're very close. They set each other on dates, they hang out, and I hope we get to that point eventually in the MCU, because that guy, people know him from Stranger Things, right? Is that his?
Yes, he was the guy from Stranger Things with the long hair and
the Dungeon Master.
Yeah, and that.
So he's around the same age as Tom Holland, I guess. Maybe. Well, that's hard to tell because Tom Holland has such a baby face that I might be aging him down. Could be wrong. I'm just hoping Silver Age Johnny is that. Yes, we are aligned. We're right there, right there. And yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot of him, but which is fine because we're going to spend a lot more time on the next character but also some of the criticisms people have, which I find incredibly amusing. Let us talk about Benjamin Grimm, the ever-loving blue-eyed thing. Yes. I
This
thought
is
he
the
looked great.
heaviest goddamn action figure I've ever held in my entire life. I'm literally getting a workout right now from this little guy.
So in the first batch of Fox Fantastic Four movies, they used a practical suit, which made him look a bit goofy. Michael Chiklis is a really talented actor, but having to play around in that thing, he looked a bit silly, especially the facial features, just to make it a mask. The fan four stick, I believe that was all CG. They made him look all gnarly and aggressively rocky. This one I love. I actually feel bad that I didn't take more screenshots of it. They give him that big eyebrow like the original Jack Kirby illustrations. I just think he looks great. I don't see what people's problems are with this.
I don't either. I thought he, for lack of a better word, I thought he looked fantastic. It's easily, I think, the best looking version of that character. And I can't imagine that character being easy to pull off.
No. So I mentioned that the first one was a practical costume. Second one is all CG. Now this, from what I understand, is a mix of both, although more CG. They had a practical model, not necessarily a full costume, though I heard they did have that too. And they overlaid CG on that. And I think it looks pretty incredible. And I'm saying this, though, as a fan of the original Jack Kirby look. I love his oversized eyebrow that's like a face umbrella. I think we could see a bit more of it in the team photo here. No, man. But yeah, for some reason, people have criticized his voice and the movement. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, the original idea for the thing, the character Ben Grimm, he's a Jewish kid from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. He was in a gang called the Yancey Street Gang. Fan Four-Stick, for some reason, they changed his origin to make him from Long Island, which I thought was all kinds of stupid. But the voice, and I'm going to name drop, when I interviewed Stan Lee, he told me that the voice he had in his head for the thing was based on Jimmy Durante, who, I don't know, he's a comedian, musician. Some people might remember his version of Frosty the Snowman. He has a version of Smile that was used in the first Joker movie, but he has that gruff, really distinct voice where he's like, Frosty the Snowman. So that's why when I hear It's Clobbering Time, I heard in that voice, but times change. It would sound silly now to have a Jimmy Durante voice in 2025. What do you think of the criticisms of the voice, who the actor I think most people know from
he's on the Bear.
Yeah, I'm like, what's the Cooking Chicago movie?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, the first time I watched the trailer, I didn't really think anything of it.
Same.
And then when I saw the criticism, I went back and watched the trailer again, and it still didn't bother me. Although I will say this: there's a scene in the trailer where he's watching himself in an old footage before the transformation, and he has the same voice. And I thought,
when he looked live,
yes, and I was like, okay, it is a little weird that his voice isn't different. Although if they went from his normal voice and pitched it up to make it high pitched, that would be probably worse.
So maybe, I mean, who's to say it doesn't change later? But Carlos also did not like the voice. Zach Morris mentions Hot Cha Cha. There's a Jimmy Durante. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a deep cut. I love that.
Yeah. But the thing is, like I made reference earlier to the whole Sonic the Hedgehog thing. It does, like, I think, as I said before, that studios are trying to avoid bad things in the trailer that people will hate, and then they'll have to go back and fix to great expense. But at the same time, I think they also expect it to a certain extent. And I think that the studio is probably looking at what people are saying and deciding, do we want to go and, alter his voice and make it a little more gravelly and whatnot. It didn't really bother me, but
it
okay.
didn't bother me either. One of the interesting Reddit theories is somebody wrote something that they think his voice is going to change as time moves forward in the movie. And as he becomes more rocky, his voice becomes more gravelly. I'm like, sure, that's reasonable. I don't know. I don't know how cosmic ray mutation works.
Right.
But yeah, he's not sounding like Jimmy Durante. Nate had a good comment here. Nate says, personally, the look is great. As for the motion, I think it's good, just not as good as Smart Hulk. That may be the bar now. Yes, but also we didn't see a ton of motion. And I mean, it's a 2-minute trailer and he's in it for what, 30 seconds? He has the scene in the kitchen and that one scene where he's running very fast at something. And who knows if the graphics are finished yet? Probably not. So I think the people that are having a hard time with it now and saying this sucks, I'm like, you're basing it off a 30-second clip and saying like the motion looks stupid. I'm like, let's see. It's like July.
Yeah, I mean, right. Yeah, exactly. It's February. They have till the end of May, maybe part of June to tweak these things if they really feel that it needs it. Maybe who knows? I mean, in context, they might look fine. So,
right. But the voice, I don't know. Even if his voice doesn't change, I think it's better. It's better for the actor, certainly, that he sounds like himself. But let's see where it goes. I didn't have a problem with either, even after reading the criticisms. Like, yeah, I'm not getting it. Now, one thing that I did have a problem, but I also kind of get, is that both Human Torch and The Thing did not say their signature catchphrases of flame on and it's clobbering time. Now, personally, I would save it's clobbering time for a better trailer or a future trailer. Flame on, I think they could have done in that scene where he jumps off the balcony. But both times, when Torch jumps off the balcony and when The Thing has that running scene, I just went into straight Beavis mode and it's like, say it, bunghole. It's like the whole time. And neither of them said it. I mean, were you disappointed?
Yeah. No, I didn't even notice, and I didn't really even think about it until you said something. No, it didn't bother me. I mean, they'll say it. I'm sure they'll say it in the movie, or they'll say something funny. Something that like parodies it. Johnny will be like, "So Ben, would you say it's time to clobber?"
It's funny. I was telling Paul before we went live, I was telling Paul about this Justice League character named Fire, who was like a same powers as the Human Torch, basically, except she's a Brazilian woman and her flame is green for some reason. But when she first got her powers at that level, she would say fire on, and her teammates like, don't ever say that again. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But I don't know. You can't. I mean, even when we got the flame on in Deadpool, I thought that was hilarious.
Right. Well, what I actually think, because you had sort of alluded to this as well, is there's going to be something during the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And I don't think there's going to be a new trailer, because it would seem weird to like have a trailer on Monday and then a second one on Sunday.
No, and plus it'll be likely a 30-second spot.
Right. But that's the thing. What I wonder is whether they're saving that for the Super Bowl. Like whether that's going to be at the very end of the Super Bowl commercial. They'll show different footage and they'll have him say flame on, and then it'll say for the full trailer, go online.
Right. Or maybe even they can show that balcony scene and have the audio be different where he actually does say flame on.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Too.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want that whole. If you're only doing a 30-second commercial, you're not going to have her do the whole thing about the family.
Yeah. Unless you're Vin Diesel.
Yes.
Vin Diesel, yeah, Dominic Toretto has a big hard on for this. So Nate mentioned Herbie, who was, I believe, was he originally in the cartoon? Where they
That's where he
introduced the
started,
character?
like he started in the cartoon, and then they brought him into the comic.
And he is this. I love what they did with him here. I love that his eyes are like reel to reel tape, which they used for data and music back then. I love that, like, the 4 buttons where his mouth is, they can move in different positions so he can smile and frown. And I love that he talks in like clicking noises, or it's almost like an R2 or Groot where humans can understand him for some reason. What did you make of the character design?
I'm looking at that photo now, and I just realized he's wearing like an apron.
Yeah, I love that.
Which is really funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why people are divided about him, because anytime you put something cute in a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie or whatever, people freak out, even though there's cute things in every Marvel movie and every Star Wars movie. I thought he was cool. I mean, I thought it was funny watching him and Ben interact, because they're so completely different.
Right.
And I mean, literally, if Ben yawned the wrong way, he just destroyed the thing. But like, I thought it was cool that he was in there. Like, I really don't expect that he's going to play like a pivotal role. I think he's just going to be kind of like, comic relief and in scenes like this. And I'm okay with that. Like, like we said earlier, the Fantastic Four comics, and thus this movie, are a bit light on the lighthearted side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe thing. And so I'm okay with that.
I mean, I personally thought it was just lovable, the design, and I don't see how I can see not liking it, but some of these fans really loathe the design. And
I think that goes back to the thing that we always got, like whenever there would be something new and cute in Star Wars, people would freak out, whether it was the Ewoks or the Porgs or BB-8 or the other little droid, I mean,
I can see that, but I mean, this looks like a robot a genius would design to serve his family. Like, he wouldn't make it like intimidating. He'd make it, playful and goofy, especially if Sue's pregnant and he's going to be around the kid. You have to make him like a funny looking, friendly dude.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true.
Before we get on to our next points, of which we have several, I just wanted to announce the January winners of last month's Steam Code giveaway. They are Smart Guy, Tokes21, and Scorpio78. This was on my Patreon. You just go to patreon.com/RPadTV. Membership is free, and we have a bunch of giveaways for the second half of February. I'm going to have some more game codes. I'm going to be finalizing those tomorrow, i.e. I'm going to be begging my old PR friends, hey, please give me some game codes I can give away on my podcast, please. But we also, 99%, that's too high, 90% chance that I'm giving away an RPadTV water bottle. And I'm going to go to my mailbox after the show, and hopefully it is there and the printing worked well. I'll be giving that away too in the very near future. Carla says, Herbie reminds me of Johnny Five. Yes, from Short Circuit. And one of Steve Guttenberg's 3 best movies. I don't know what the other 2 are. Well, Can't Stop the Music, because that movie is ridiculous. Highly recommend it. It's Steve Guttenberg starring in a semi-autobiographical tale of the Village People, starring Caitlyn Jenner when Caitlyn was still Bruce Jenner. But Bruce Jenner wearing midriffs and Daisy Duke shorts. So I should have known then. But he was trying to tell us something back then. We just weren't listening. Sorry, Caitlin. Let's talk about John Malkovich. He is confirmed as being in the movie. His character is not confirmed. When people saw him in the trailer, they're like, what the hell is Albus Dumbledore doing in a Fantastic Four movie? There is speculation that makes sense that he is playing Red Ghost, an evil Russian scientist who wanted to harness the cosmic rays that gave the Fantastic Four their powers, but instead he made 3 superpowered apes with different powers, and he fought the Fantastic Four. I believe he debuted in the original Fantastic Four series, number 13. Do you think it's him, Paul? And does he look like Dumbledore?
He does look like Dumbledore. He also looks like Alan Moore. But then again, Alan Moore looks like Dumbledore, and Dumbledore looks like Alan Moore. I'm sort of like 60-40 on him being that guy, because I could also see it being. I was thinking about, they're going to somehow have to get the Fantastic Four into the modern MCU, and so I was wondering, could he be Sue and Johnny's long lost dad, or some version of Reed from another dimension, or somebody from the, could he be Franklin from the future, who, or something.
Some people have speculated that it is Franklin Storm, Sue and Johnny's father.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that too.
Some people speculated that he is Mole Man is confirmed to be in the movie, but people assume that Paul Walter Hauser is playing Mole Man, which I think makes perfect sense. Although Danny DeVito, I think, would have made a great Mole Man. I personally hope it's Red Ghost, just so John Malkovich could use his stupid Russian accent from Rounders. And be like, pay this man. Give that man his money. I want to hear that voice in another movie so badly. I think it would be
right.
Awesome. Yeah. So 60% you think it's Red Ghost?
Yeah, I think it's probably Red Ghost, but I won't be the least bit surprised if it ends up being somebody, somebody else.
It's Teddy KGB. Yes. Hanging ground. Kid has alligator veins in his blood. Okay, I'll stop that now. It's just so much fun. Once you start, you can't stop. We also showed, I did not show this screen, I meant to show this earlier, of the Manhattan in the Fantastic Four movie. Someone brought up an interesting theory that the Statue of Liberty will be like a big nexus point for a bunch of Marvel universes, because they used it in X-Men. The final battle was in the Statue of Liberty for some reason. They had it in No Way Home, where the revamped Statue of Liberty was the big fight scene. I don't know. Could be. I'm guessing not. It's a neat theory. I don't see it happening.
I mean, it's just the Statue of Liberty is just a good sort of shorthand for this is New York City, this is America. Right. Especially because you can't really use they used to use the Twin Towers for that, and obviously not anymore. It's kind of like when you want to say to somebody you're in Los Angeles, they show the Hollywood sign. So
yes, I need a Bond villain and Teddy KG. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. I sound like a really bad.
Yeah, but Blofeld didn't have a Russian accent though. So
no, but I'm following the director here. Okay, that's what he wanted.
All right.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I was reading my old review of Fan Four Stick, which I linked to in the video description. And it reminded me some of the scenes, they showed an Oyster Bay scene where for some reason you can see Manhattan. I lived in Oyster Bay for a few years, and you could absolutely not see Manhattan unless you had a very high powered telescope and a very high building, which there were none of in Oyster Bay. And it reminded me of Rumble in the Bronx, where for some reason they had a cutaway of the Statue of Liberty. I'm like, you can't see the Statue of Liberty from the Bronx. I don't know. But, that movie was filmed in Vancouver anyway. But Zach Morris brings us to our next point. He said, did you see the Watcher's face in the clouds during the asteroid scene? Not initially, but when I read it, I went back and looked for it. I think it could be. Jeffrey Wright is rumored to be in the movie, and it would fall in line in the storyline of FF48 when the Silver Surfer arrives. Yes. And that brings us to 3 questions on possible cameos in Fantastic Four First Steps. Do you think Jeffrey Wright will appear as Uatu the Watcher in this movie? I mean, I hope so, because I'm a big fan of his.
I like him, and I like him as that character. I don't think, though, if he does, that it will be in the main part of the movie. Like, I think it will be in a mid or post credits scene.
Interesting. Now, possible cameo number 2, Natasha Lyonne is confirmed to be in the movie, but they haven't said who she is playing. She did play Birdie the Duck in the What If series released in December. Great character, great actor. Do you think she'll be playing Birdie in this movie, or will she be playing someone else?
I think she's playing someone else.
Yeah,
I don't think she's playing Birdie. I don't think she's doing the voice of Herbie. Like, I think Herbie's going to speak in binary, like his cousin R2D2.
Binary, not fluid. Sorry.
Yeah. I think she might be Alicia Masters, which is Ben's
that's interesting.
girlfriend. Yeah. That said, if she does turn up as Birdie, I think it will be in that post-credit scene with Uatu, and they're like both looking down on the earth, and they're like,
I mean, Birdie is a cosmic character, and Galactus and Silver Surfer, not shown in the trailer, they're cosmic characters. So
right. Yeah, I think she's gonna be. It's gonna be somebody where it's not like her in a costume. Like, I think it's gonna be like she's gonna play somebody. I don't know who, but yeah,
some New York chick for sure. She really only has 1 speed. Yeah, she does the tough girl with a New York accent. I never understood how she and Fred Armisen dated for so long. I mean, they're both cool, and I both love them as performers, but it just seems like a weird combination to me. I don't know why. And
sometimes that works.
Let us go with our last possible cameo. Do you think Catherine Hahn will appear as Agatha Harkness? And this is why I say this. In the comic books, when Agatha was introduced and before she was revealed to be a witch, she was this old lady that would babysit Franklin Richards. So she was introduced in the Fantastic Four world.
I'm going to say no, because I don't think we're going to have as much with Franklin to the point where we need to get him a babysitter.
Well, I mean, they're going to go off and face Galactus. They're not going to leave you stay here, little baby. I don't know.
Well, right, but we don't know when they face Galactus. I mean,
Well, at some point, the 4 of them will be fighting, and someone has to take care of the kid, right?
Well, right. But my point being that, like, we don't know how all this is the Galactus going to be in terms of the timeline in the middle? Right. Is it at the end? Is because I don't know. I don't think they've even said sort of what the thrust of the movie is. Like, is it that they have these powers and then they're doing all this fun stuff, but they never really fight anybody, and then all of a sudden Galactus shows up and it's like, oh God, now we have to fight this guy. Especially because if Mole Man is in it, what is he gonna do? I don't know. Maybe he should. Maybe, although what would be funny is if they riffed off of the Incredibles and they just had him show up at the end.
Beat the shit out of someone.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Especially if they got the Cliff from Cheers to do his voice.
So when going back, I don't think we'll see much. For some reason, I'm assuming that they're going to have like a highlight reel of the Fantastic Four's past battles. And that's where we're going to see like Mole Man and Red Ghost, because I don't think they're going to play a big part in the movie. Could very well be wrong, but I would love for them to focus more on Silver Surfer and Galactus.
Yeah. I mean, it would be weird if Silver Surfer and Galactus were just in the montage. Do you know what I mean? Like,
weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that has to be the big threat, right?
Right.
Nate says, I'm not even sure the baby is Franklin. MCU has changed canon before. It might be Doom. I'm guessing no. Maybe Valeria. Maybe they'll have her be the first baby instead. You never know. As for the Catherine Hahn question, I'm also thinking no, but I would love to see it happen just because Catherine Hahn is awesome and she should be in everything.
I feel like if they did that, it would be like a cameo. Again, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be like she's in it for very long.
Oh, there's one screen I forgot to take that I meant to. They had one scene in the spaceship where it appears to be the initial launch when they got their powers, and there's all these sparks going off. And someone said, that looks like the sparks from, like Doctor Strange's sling ring or something. And I'm like, I don't think it is, but I think in my head, I'm be like, it would be hilarious if it was a portal and like Madison came through for some reason. And be like, who are you? Where am I? Like, man, it's Madison with two N's, but their ends are not where you think. Zach Morris says, I'm guessing Mole Man could be the opening battle we see in trailer. Yes, that makes sense. Catherine Hahn in old makeup would be dope, says Nate. Yes, I agree with all of those things. Let us close out on this, and we can go long on this question because there's a lot we can want. But in the next major trailer, what do you want to see in the next major trailer for First Steps?
Well, I think we need to see more of Johnny and what his personality is going to be like. And I think we have to see Reed stretching. Those are kind of obvious things. And I would like a better look at Galactus. You know, we only got him from the back. I want to see, what he looks like. But the other thing that I would really like to see, even if it's just a little bit of it, is Ben and Johnny going at it. Because that's one of the central relationships in those two fight like cats and dogs, like brothers.
Yeah.
And you did get that in the other movies, but like I would like to see these two versions of the characters like kind of going at it. Like what is their relationship like? Like, because there's been times when especially in the comics when it seems like they really don't like each other, but there's also times when like they very clearly do like each other and that it's more of a playful like brotherly love kind of thing. So
right, but
I'd like to see what the relationship is going to be like in the movie.
That happens with brothers. There's
right.
love and hate.
Yeah.
Nate says, I don't actually want to see it in the next trailer. I know I want to see the movie. I'd rather wait. Fair point. I respect when people can do that, but I cannot help myself with a new trailer. I literally have watched this at least 20 times. I'm just that type of nerd. And sometimes it ruins things for me. Most of the time it doesn't. I get a different kind of enjoyment out of this. But what I want to see most is more Silver Surfer for a few reasons. I love the Silver Surfer character. I love that they're using Shalabal in this version of Silver Surfer. I want to see the anti-DEI crew be like, this is Chilean Mr. Fantastic, a girl Silver Surfer. What's wrong with this movie? It's like Marvel is woke, and I just want to see people whine and complain about that. But Nate says, yes, teasers are different. Zach says on the Johnny-Ben relationship, I always saw it as Johnny keeping Ben out of his own head, feeling sorry for himself. That is a very thoughtful thing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Because Ben does spend a lot of time like moping around in a trench coat and fedora. So, but I want to see more Silver Surfer. I want to see what the hell Natasha Lyonne is doing in the movie.
I want there to be a very, very long scene in which Ben goes to temple and has to put on a yarmulke and sorry.
Maybe his voice will change in the next trailer. We'll see. Maybe we'll see more of Herbie. Maybe we'll see the kid or not kid in it. I'm excited to see more. I mean, overall, this trailer just left me wanting to see a movie I already really wanted to see. It just makes me want to see it more. And
yeah, it absolutely confirmed my enthusiasm for this movie. And I know there's like 2 other Marvel movies we gotta get to first, and I'm excited for them too. But I think I'm more, Thunderbolts and Captain America.
Yes.
But I think I'm way more excited for this one. I think this is the one I'm most excited for since Deadpool. But yeah, so.
Zach Morris says, I want to know what Johnny sees when he flies up to the atmosphere. Maybe he's like, oh, hot silver chick. I'm going there. But guys, I think that is a wrap for our Fantastic Four First Steps reactions. Yes, we did spend an hour talking about a 2-minute trailer. I'm very proud of myself for that. So thank you, Paul, for that. Please leave comments, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And for housekeeping, we are taking next week off because it is the DICE Awards, but we will be coming back on February 20th, where Paul and I and Carlos possibly will be reviewing Captain America. What's the subtitle? Brave New World? Like a whole new world? No, that's Aladdin. And then on the 27th, what are we reviewing on the 27th, Paul?
I don't know. I'm not involved in that one.
Oh, it will be Mac, Ray Carcillo, and I discussing, was Kraven the Hunter really that bad? Yes, I am making them rewatch Kraven. I watched it in movie theaters just because I have one of those movie passes, and I wanted to see if it was as bad as Morbius. So I still think Morbius is the worst thing Sony has done and the worst superhero movie I've seen in the last 20 years. No, that's not true. Green Lantern still exists. God damn it. I'm still scarred by that one. But yeah, hope you can join us then, and stay tuned for more contest information. I will be posting that. And please sign up for a Patreon account on patreon.com/RPadTV. There is a free level of membership, but also premium memberships. The link is below in the comments section. I also have a flyer for that, but I don't feel like doing it. So thank you for watching RPad TV. Be good to yourself. Hopefully in 2 weeks, the country will still be here. And I will see you then for Captain America. Bye for now.